information, it is, they will get it.
They will get that.
Yeah, because on YouTube it is said that it is 4:15.
So these are people that have registered for these.
Whoever is watching on YouTube, they will get the notification. Yeah. I didn't see the schedule. The schedule may not have reflected that, but YouTube has.
I see. Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
It is in the booklet also.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it says Wednesday, May 17th, Prarasa Puja at 5:15, so we expect class timing to change.
Ah, okay, good.
So hope they look at it. Yeah.
So if anyone wants the English version of just the mantras, no problem. And if you prefer, if you want the English version of the mantras. I can get a Sanskrit. This is for this word. Yeah. You have to. I mean, it's all together. No, Sanskrit. Sanskrit is in the. Oh, you did? This is English. You want it? Just English.
Okay, shall we get started? Om Namah Shivaya. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we completed the section, the topic, in terms of topic. And so the selection of topic was something that that I did as a person who was reviewing it, based on some suggestions from Swami Akhandananda. But I think we will consolidate or change some of that based on the timing of our classes and so on. So we have to do that. I think I remember Swami Dayanand used to say, and he knew this very well from his experience, that as he was talking, as he was teaching, rather, really not just talking, but as he was teaching, we could see, and all of us, we would say, my God, there are so many verses left, and he doesn't appear to have enough time. And so he could sense our impatience, and he really kind of like semi-scolded us. And now I think he taught us that at the very beginning, tell everybody that I may not complete this book. Okay, so don't expect me to do all of that. So in my case, I had 144 verses, and you can make a calculation. We are in number 28, and half of the time has gone by. Okay, so but I do have a plan. And the plan is that I will complete it, but I will consolidate certain sections. So it's not as though we are going to go up to verse number 50 and then the rest of the 94 are going to be gone. So we will complete it in some way, but definitely there will be gaps. And I would think that based on your understanding and your interest and your passion for getting this thing done, you will do it on your own. And I think you have now the books to do it, which is wonderful, really. This is a great opportunity. And then take your time, and then, maybe either you can do it right away, or you can just wait for a while and then revise it. So that's generally the plan. So we have done these topics, and the last one we did was, what does self-knowledge mean? What is the Jnana Swarupa? With that, number 28, that topic is finished. Now we start a new topic, and when I study Swami Viditatmananda's books, he'll be much more structured in the way he would make because it's a much bigger book, and so he has had that more time. But for my preparation, I just said, I've got this much time, and what am I going to do? So I made my own topic headings. So nothing fundamental to what Adi Sankara was saying in terms of topic headings. But the meaning is the more important one. I'll make sure that it's communicated well. So the next topic is called simply the next stage of Vichara. So we did the importance of Vichara, and so here I didn't really think of anything better, so I just said the next stage of Vichara. But the next stage of Vichara has a meaning, a relevant meaning, which I will now explain. What do you mean by the next stage of Vichara? The other thing I was just doing, in this afternoon, I was just reviewing my notes for the remaining, some of the classes. What I found that I have done is borrow some of the ideas from the later parts of this text already in our teaching. So this is the way it flows. You have to take up a concept, and as you are doing the concept, I was just reviewing it, so I found myself, I've already talked about this, I've already talked about this. So we have already usurped some of the material that we were going to do already up to this point, which is good. So when I repeat it, I'll do it very quickly and not spend a lot of time. I'll probably just remind you. You remember I told you this? So this is going to happen. Okay? Right away, let me tell you this is what's going to happen. The next stage of Vichara is predicated by Adi Sankara by saying, up to now we have focused on Atma Anatma Viveka. That's the nature of the ignorance, that's the nature of the knowledge. Ignorance is manifold, Ajnanam is manifold, the Anatma is manifold, Atma is singular. All of those kinds of things we have done. So now we have kept the stage, which I have already talked about. This is the discussion with just being a Sakshi is not enough. And so up to this point, we have come to a point that I am a Sakshi. I am not what I am seeing. I am the light which is lighting up what I am seeing. This is what we have done. Now we have a new issue, which I have already talked about. We have two competing realities. We have the Sakshitvam, and we have the samsara. It is me, and there is a samsara. And this should be appreciated. Should be appreciated that this is not the solution. Why should it be appreciated? It should be appreciated by us because, as I had already mentioned, this is what is going to happen many, many times now. I've already mentioned this, just as a reminder. The human being is not going to be completely happy until he or she is complete. This is what we need to think about. So a large number is not enough. I want to be infinity. Infinity meaning not from a mathematical sense, but infinity means total, done. There's absolutely nothing to disturb me. This can only happen if there is no duality. This can only happen if there is nothing else other than me. Because Shastra also says it, our experience also says it, Dvaitam hi bhayam bhavati. If there is another person, there is distrust, fear, and a lack of completeness. You may be friends, or you may be fighting. Those are all depending on your relationship with the other person. But there is some otherness. And the reality of our life is that whenever there is otherness, there are problems. This is why we love our family, not anybody else's family, because they're our children. There's a oneness about it. Others, we look at it kind of interestingly. It's not as though you fight with them or anything, but they're different. They're not me. So it's very clear from our experience, and the Shastra also says, yes, that's exactly right. You are not a strange person. If you feel incomplete, that is not a strange feeling, because your sense of completeness will only come when there is nothing else other than you. So therefore, now we start a new topic. And the new topic is there real Dvaita or not? Because there appears to be. Being a Sakshi and the Sakshya, one which is a witness and the witnessed, are two different entities. So this relationship, this relativity, this truth about looking at both aspects of it forms the next topic. That is what this topic is all about. And so this starts with I should tell you this. So, this starts with verse number 42. So you can ask what happened between 28 and 42. Why are we skipping it? I decided to skip it for the following reason. The verses between 28 and 42 have to do with Purvapaksha Samadhanam. So, before 28 was the Vedantic view, then between 29 and 41 approximately, I think, there is a view of other schools of thought. They challenge what Vedanta is saying, and we take it up because of proving to ourselves that we have considered everything. It's not to put anyone down. This is really meant for our own purpose. And so that part I skipped because that means you have to look at, the views from Buddhists and others and so on and so forth. And so why we don't have the time to do that. You can certainly do it on your own if you want to. So therefore this topic now starts with verse number 42. And here a doubt and a question arises, which is, Shastra says that this viveka is a good beginning, as I mentioned already, but it's not a complete understanding. It's a good beginning, but let me tell you what the understanding is. Let me tell you the understanding of oneness, not duality. This is the topic. With respect to this topic, there is a question that can be raised, which is, why do we need for Shastra to tell us? Because I'm experiencing duality anyway. I am different from everybody else's everybody's experience. You have a sense of identity with your own body-mind, and what others do is different from me. So why do we have Shastra to tell us about all of this? Why can't we just figure it out ourselves? We would learn to love everybody, and I think we can figure it out. Shastra says it won't happen. It won't happen this way. So why do we need the Shastra is a very important thing. So it happens the way the Srishti is given by Ishvara, there is unique pramanas for different things. Like for example, your eyes are needed to see forms. So what is called drishti gocharam. Gocharam means the field of view, is the total thing about eyes. So it's not as though the ears can also see. Multiple people have no encroachment on one another. Now what can happen is that you can make a mistake. Like for example, looking at a stone fruit. Your eyes are saying, it looks like a fruit. And it's not. So if you want to, so there can be an error. That's a different thing altogether that can be corrected. But it's not as though, a person is blind and he says, that's okay. I have my ears to look at things. You can't do that. You only have pramana which is specific to one instrument. So the reason for doing this analysis is, if you can figure out a sense of oneness by yourself, you won't need the pramana. But you won't need the Shastra. But the reason why you need the Shastra, it is the only pramanam that can show you oneness. You cannot, just like ears cannot see, therefore you cannot figure out all by yourself. So the pramanam of Shastra is unique, what is called abhaditam. Abhaditam pramanam means that nothing else can do that. This is the very fundamental part of the Vedic thinking, because we can now at least look at this, that others can say, like Buddhists can say, or Jains can say, or Karmakandins can say, or Sankhya can say, Yoga can say, Vaisheshikas can say, all of these people can say, we don't need. Actually, some of them do admit to the pramanam of the Vedas, but I haven't even mentioned about the other religions. They say, Quran can tell you what it is. Our own Sikh religion. It's a very funny situation, really, with the Sikh religion, because it is all based on Vedanta. But for whatever reason, which I haven't really quite understood, I don't have time in my life now to study all that, so I let it go. For some reason they say this can be only taught by the Sikh gurus, and the last one is now gone. There's nobody else that you can learn it from. 10 gurus, and now you just do the japa on this Granth Sahib, and you keep on studying the Granth Sahib. So this is not really, that doesn't work. You have to have a living guru. It's interesting. I was, just before the class, I was seeing this translation by Swami Bhaktananda. And the verse that we just did in the last class, number 28. So I was looking at to see, what does 28 do? So I'm not saying that this is a complete explanation, this is just a translation, but just look at the translation. Number 28 says, I am free from all impurity, I am immovable, I am unlimited, holy, undecaying, immortal, etc. So supposing you are reading this, what did you gain by this? What did you gain by this? So for example, Nishchalaha. So the Nishchalaha means I'm immovable. That has to be unfolded by a living teacher based on one's own experience. Only then our mind can really grasp it. Otherwise, you know what you'll say? It says, oh, it's a good translation. Okay, good. Let me put it down. Let's go do something else. You need a real dialogue between people to move the doubts of your own mind. So therefore what I'm saying is that Vedas alone has a method of removing doubts with purity, with directness, based on the Sanskrit language. It works. So the sense of oneness cannot be done by any other means. You cannot figure it out on your own. You can try to approach it a little bit, make your life a little more comfortable, but just making your life more comfortable is far away from total freedom. If you want total freedom, you need the instructions of the Shastra to figure that out. So that was just one of the topics that came up. Now, this is an important beginning of this section. What is the section? That there cannot be duality. This is what the fundamental part of Advaita Vedanta is. Dvaita is not enough. For the reason that we mentioned. Here is another important reason. We say satyam is the truth. And in fact, it's almost like a statement which is not necessary. It's like saying truth is the truth. Satyam it's like a synonym. So satyam is truth, and truth is the English version of satyam. But we define satyam in such a way, the one which does not change in any possible direction, any possible way. No changes are possible. Because we should see this, that any change in the content of a vastu develops a doubt about what that vastu is. Now remember I gave you the example that if this was a carpet today, but all of a sudden as you're coming in, it becomes liquid. A change. What would you do? You won't even enter the room. You'll say there is something funny going on in here. The reason you trust a carpet is because it stays as a carpet even at a relative level. So therefore, the definition of satyam is that one that does not change. Now the question is, can there be two satyams? Can there be two satyams that do not change? No. Why not? Because one satyam is changeless under any circumstances. That's the definition of satyam. As you know very well, the definition of the three levels of reality, satyam, asatyam or tucham and mithya. Right? So, tucham is one which is never there. Never. Not possible for it to be there. So the old, in the Shastra used to say, the son of a barren woman. Nowadays with all this new technology and so on, you can possibly do that. So we don't, Swamiji never used to use that example. He would say a square circle is a good example of tucham. It's not possible. It's not possible to have a square circle. So tucham is one level of reality. The second level of reality is mithya, which appears to be satyam, but it isn't. This is what all the waves of the ocean are, ornaments of the gold are, etc. The third reality is satyam, which never changes under any circumstance. Either time or vastu or space. No way. No, dude, you can just put pot shots at it and it doesn't change. Now, can there be two such satyams? No. Because if you have another satyam that has the same thing, then how is that different from the first one? So then you'll have to come up with a modified version of satyam which will say, one which is the same but in India. One which is essentially the same but in the USA. And what's the difference between the satyam in India? Well, you could say that, that this is a one hall space and then you have a bathroom space. Okay? And then you say, well, essentially they are the same. But there are two things. There are two things, but they are not two things. So we say this is all quibbling with words. Bathroom space and the hall space are all one space. There's only one satyam. So now we have an issue at hand. I see two satyams. I see myself as a witness of the world, and I see the world that I see. It appears to be two satyams. It cannot be. That means that your definition of satyam is not complete. Then what is it? So there the Shastra says repeatedly, clearly, emphatically, that one is satyam and the other one is mithya. So what appears to be satyam is mithya. Now the question will become, maybe the world is satyam and I am mithya. Okay, I accept your explanation that there cannot be two equal satyam. That much I understand. And I also accept your explanation that one of them has to be a satyam and the other one is a mithya. But why not make the world as satyam and I myself as mithya? No. Why not? Just look at it. As we have already talked about it, do you ever disappear? Not you as through the body, but you as a conscious entity, as jnanam, as Aparoksha jnanam. So this definition by Swami Akhandananda, which I'm sure it's not just him. It's not just when I kept saying, it was communicated by this one Mahatma, but he's representing the overall view. Is called Aparoksha jnanam. So the Aparoksha jnanam means that my sense of being conscious is always there. You can never negate it. We have already talked about that. Never negate it. It is not even in question. It cannot even. This is why you cannot go to a doctor and say, am I there or not? Can you please prove that I am there? Can't do that. There's no reason to do that. It is ridiculous to even think about that. So therefore I am always there. But the world is not always there. It comes and goes. It disappears in sleep. Just about an hour ago I took a nice nap. Gone. So therefore, if one is satyam and the other one is mithya, it cannot be that the world is satyam and I am mithya. I alone must be the satyam. And the only issue is that my satyam is misunderstood. It is not properly dissected. I immediately, whenever I think of me, I always think of my whole team as being me. My body, my mind, etc. So that is what I have to really think about. And if I do, then the purity of myself as the only satyam. So that means now I have to really look at the mithyatvam of the world. And the mithyatvam of the world, which includes my own body. It's not as though my body and my mind are separate from the world. They are not. Because the whole srishti of the world is through Pancha Mahabhutas, 5 basic elements. And my body is nothing but a modification of that. All of your bodies, my body, everybody's body is a modification of the 5 Pancha Mahabhutas. Both the Sukshma Sharira as well as Karana Sharira as well as Sthula Sharira, everything is nothing but a modification of the five basic elements. And the 5 basic elements are not I. That is not a conscious thing. They are just the reflector of the conscious. So similarly, when I look at myself in the mirror, there is not 2 people. One of them is real, the other one is a copy. So it's very clear from this analysis, without even going into any more depth, that all that I need to do is to strip away the falseness of myself as a limited being. That's it. Because I am already satyam. I am already everything in this world. But I just somehow made a mistake of superimposing my body, mind onto myself. And the moment I do that, it creates duality. So here actually, let's see if I can give you the verse numbers of that. I may not be. I may not have that. Anyway, I can't find the exact reference, but the question was, this duality, when did it begin? How did it begin? And when did it begin? Really the same, 2 sides of the same coin. This is a doubt. So it is said, it is born the moment you see something wrongly. It begins with that. If you see a rope and for some reason you don't see it as it is, sense of some kind of an error, and so avaranam, the sense of covering, develops vikshepa. it develops multiplicity, all kinds of funny things. And so the seeing the world is a very powerful effect of not seeing myself. It's a very damaging, very powerful effect of not seeing myself. It is really like, it is not like saying a harmless thing. This is why in the Vedantic literature, the snake and rope are pointed out, because in the case of a wrong understanding of the rope, you can say this is a mala, or it could be a hose. But those are not as powerful to affect me as an imagination of a snake. And the imagination of the snake is very powerful, so much so that you recoil from it. This is why you can, as I've mentioned to you, that you can close the door and say, don't go in there is a snake. This is how much it is. And in the case of the 10th man story, it is a very powerful thing to misunderstand yourself. What the grief of this boy is not ordinary grief. He was ready to commit suicide as a result of that. It wasn't like they saying, oh, I made a mistake, it's okay. Huge mistake, huge implications. So very similar to is the case that if I don't understand myself, I create a huge problem for myself. Unlimited problems. And you can see that. And it just goes on and on. It's kind of like, I'm just extracting it. Just supposing you say a snake, and then you close the door, and you cannot find anybody else to open the door. You're too scared to go in there. And so you are shut out of the room, and your fear just completely goes on. And so it is just amazing. In this example, I just took it. This is something that I talked to this is an incident that happened to me. I was ready to go out one morning, and I always, when I go out, obviously I take my wallet with me, and I check to make sure everything is okay. When I opened my wallet, my credit card was missing. So I immediately turned to Pami and I said, Pami, have you seen my credit card? She says, no, I don't know. I said, oh my God, I think we've lost it. Now, this losing of the credit card, which you may have all experienced, I hope not, but you may have experienced, is a terrible feeling. Terrible feeling. Because the implications of that are enormous, relatively speaking to what I'm talking about, but just to give you an idea. And so that means now, in fact, this is exactly what happened to us. So she says, well, where were we yesterday? And when this thing happens, you are so panicking, you can't remember where you were yesterday. As it is, we can't remember what we had for breakfast or something, but on something like this. So then we were mutually talking to each other and saying, I think we were there. You might have left it there. So shall we call? Oh, please call the bank and please stop the payment right away. It had enormous implications. Then something happened that completely eliminated all the problem. I remembered that last night, this is a real fact, I paid for an Amazon purchase through my credit card from my office. What a relief it was. I haven't found the credit card yet, but the knowledge that my credit card is not lost is just So wonderful. Otherwise, you lose so much time. And so once I found that out, I was relaxed. Then it's a matter of where it is. It's in this corner of the room, that corner of the room. We found it. Eventually, it was right behind some papers on my desk. And so all I was saying from that example is that the consequences of not knowing something can be very damaging. And in this case, the consequences of not knowing myself as really nothing but the very fundamental Brahman, which is the very content of Ishvara, is very damaging. Very damaging. And so we have to continue on with this vichara. And this vichara will consist of reconciling the duality into non-duality. This is what Advaita Vedanta really basically talks about. So we'll continue with this in the next class tomorrow. Om Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamada Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om.
Yeah, they're all like that. I don't know why. I mean, the real stuff is in, this doesn't appear.